Hey, this is Rob Thompson with Sports Biz Podcast. Interview with influencers. I got Adam White, founder, and I guess president, CEO.
Yeah, CEO works.
CEO, I love it. Frontofficesports.org, and it's a go-to portal on social media, website, and for sports management students, for executives. I found Adam, I think 2 years ago, I think I started following this, and I read the emails every day, and you guys keep me in the loop of what's happening. It really streamlines everything for me. So welcome, sir. Welcome to my podcast.
Hey, thanks, Rob. I appreciate you having us on. And 2 years, it seems like it's gone by in a flash, right? It's crazy how fast these things go.
So has it felt like 2 years or 50 years?
Gosh, depends on who you ask. We started this thing about 4 years ago now, when I was 19 and just finished my first year at the University of Miami. And some days it feels like it's gone by in 2 seconds, and some days it feels like it's been 100 years, quite honestly. Each day presents a unique challenge, but it's been a fruitful 4 years, I would say, for us, and something that no matter what happens in the next year or 2 years, or if we're around in 20 years, which I hope we are, the experience, regardless of what has happened or what will happen, has been extremely valuable, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
All right, so let's take a step back. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about that aha moment with front office. What was that point where you said, I think there's a need for it in the marketplace, or was it a project you had to work on? How was it created?
Yeah, so going back here now, so I just graduated from the University of Miami about 6 months ago, not 6 years ago. And after my freshman year and throughout my freshman year while I was at school, I was speaking with my professors. And while I was there, they had told me, hey, you need to do informational interviews with professionals in the industry. And for some of my classes, we even had to do them and get graded on them. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, if I'm going to do these informational interviews with professionals in the industry, A, how am I going to get them to talk to me? And B, how can I provide more value than just being able to speak with them, talk to them, get some insight, follow up with them every once in a while, and go from there. And so as I started looking around, I was like, wow, there's not a lot of people doing stories or really covering the people who work in the industry. Obviously, you're going to have your legacy players at the time and still Sports Business Journal and everything like that. But for the most part, when I was focused on informational interviews, there was not a lot of people covering just really what people in the industry were doing and how they were doing it and how they had got there. And so with that in mind, I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this informational interview, I might as well do more of them, use the platform that I then create to set myself up with for 3 years of doing this to have a job. And so the whole entire goal in the beginning, and even throughout the first 3 years, was to do informational interviews with professionals in the industry, tell their story on the platform, be able to publish it, share it with them, have them share it, and then be able to use that to grow an organic connection, organic network, and then be able to have a job by the time I graduated. And so in the first year alone, we did about 110 informational interviews, and that was the only thing we were doing. The only thing I was doing was informational interviews, and really way we had found success was by flipping the script, and instead of just reaching out to these professionals with a hand open saying, hey, I want to learn something from you, it was more like, hey, let me tell you your story. And because of that, professionals in the industry kind of took a liking to that. It wasn't just me like wasting their time 5-10 minutes. It was me like actually taking in a lot of what they had learned, taking all that, putting it together in a piece, publishing on a site for them to share, for them to have, and for them to, kind of gain some positive. And so because of that, it was a much more organic way of doing it. Like I said, did 110 in the first year. And so when you think about it, 52 weeks, it's about 3 or 4 a week, given a few weeks in there when you might not do anything, Christmas, Thanksgiving, things like that. And so it was crazy. And we busted them out, and we were lucky to have a few people share, and everyone come on and kind of help us on the social side of things. And after I had started, and I had reached out to people in the Facebook group that we had, and I said, hey, this is what I'm doing. I've interviewed some cool people. Would love to have someone come out and help me and see if we can tag team this. And I had one guy reach out to me, and that was Russ, who's still with us today as like my right-hand man, COO and president. And Russ came on, and at the time he was a junior and I was just a sophomore. And he really took the lead in doing some of the social stuff and just let me hammer out all the interviews, and we published, and it was just him and I, and it was a really good time. And, it kind of went from there to the point where, about 2 years in, we had picked up a few more people who had wanted to write. We began shifting away from just informational interviews to more of an industry resource covering the X's and O's of the industry and what was happening, but doing so in a peer-to-peer way and in a way that was engaging and very much so unique to what we were doing in terms of, we had people coming in, on the platform who were working in the industry, writing about the industry, and really breathing a fresh life and a perspective into an area of coverage that we think and we believe has been dominated by legacy players that, is great for the industry, but it's never a bad thing to have some fresh takes. And so that has been about the last year and a half. And now here we are about 4 years in. We've actually finally started to make some money. We're able to start paying some of our contributors, which is a pretty good feeling in terms of trying to, at 19, start what could be like the hardest business to start, which is a media company where you only really sell eyeballs. And if you don't have eyeballs, you have to spend 4 years building up eyeballs to sell eyeballs. And it's been a heck of a lot of work, and it's been something that's been, my baby for the last 4 years, and has really opened up some wonderful opportunities. But it's changed a lot. Originally, like I said, it was only supposed to be informational interviews and get me a job, and because of that, for the last couple of years, we've been throwing things up against the wall to see what stuck, and we've kind of finally found what is stuck and where we're going to go. And there's never been a business plan. There's never been funding outside of what I had made at the bar that I worked at while I was in school, and what I'm doing now outside of FOS. And because of that, we've been limited, and we've had to take it slow, and we've not been able to do some of the things that people really want us to do, but in due time, it's going to happen. So it's been kind of an evolution, I would say, over the last 4 years, and something that's been really eye-opening for me personally and professionally.
I think anybody who's listening to this, especially other 19, 20-year-olds, Adam, who've come up and want to get into the sports industry, mm-hmm. I think you're a case study, and the business is a case study for the reality of the industry, and not just industry, but a career. And what you've learned along the process, and I know I'm telling you something you already know, but you've learned patience and hard work. Not that you weren't a grinder already, because you're out there slinging drinks and burgers and, to pay for this. And, but anybody who's listening to you and your reputation in this business is getting to the point where you just get it. It just doesn't happen. It just not, You just can't get into this. And there's more ways to get into the industry than just sell tickets. Yeah. I think, I told you my story. I got into the industry because I started a sports in a high school recruiting agency. Yep. I knew no other way to get in, and, with you and what you've done here, it's taken big media companies a long time and a lot of content, a lot of money to do what you've created on your own. And so I think, what would be that advice? If you had to go back and give yourself advice now, what you know now about this business, so exactly what you know now, what would you go back and tell your 19-year-old self sitting there in class?
Don't start a media company with no money and no contact. Pick something else. I would say that just really it comes down to being flexible and being willing just to not keep the motor, to not stop the motor, right? A lot of the stuff that I have done is not groundbreaking. It's not a new tech solution. It's nothing. It's just really, it's been a lot of just, hey, knocking on the right doors and right people, and just continuing to knock and knock and knock and knock and knock. And if they said no, okay, just moving on to the next. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've kind of run up against with other professionals, or I wouldn't say professionals, but students, and even professionals sometimes, is that they're afraid of that rejection, and they're afraid of people saying no. But that's the worst they're going to say, right? I mean, that's really the worst they're going to say. They're not going to say, I hate you. They're not going to cuss you out over emails. At least I hope not. So the worst they're going to say is like, hey, I'm not interested, or hey, no, I don't have time for this. Okay, that's fine. You move on to the next. And that's really what you got to learn early on, is that you just got to understand that it's not going to be given to you. Anything in life or this industry is not going to be given to you. In terms of, with the business and examples of like that, it's just, I would sit up until 2, 3, 4 in the morning, making sure we had content ready, making sure we had tweets ready, and then just continuing to build off that every day. And not saying that's what you have to do to be successful, because there's, like you said, 1,000 ways to do it. But the easiest way to kind of apply it to whatever is listening, or whoever is listening, is that, okay, if you find something that you really like, make sure you're taking the steps to improve yourself on that daily. And I hear a lot of people who come up with a lot of excuses in terms of, oh, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I don't have this, I don't have that. Well, the thing is, a lot of things now are free. You can learn how to do a lot of things on YouTube, which is free. I kind of taught myself some basic coding on YouTube. I taught myself basic web design on YouTube. I taught myself basic Photoshop on YouTube. And those are all things that you can use to make yourself more valuable. And then when it just comes down to time, it's just like, if this is something you really want to do and really want to be good at, you have the opportunity now, especially between that 19 to 23-year-old age, where you're in college and you kind of have nothing but time, especially if you don't have any other responsibilities outside of just going to school. Using that time on a Thursday night, instead of going to the bars with your friends to network, or to go to a professional event or something like that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't go and hang out with your friends all the time, or not at all, because I think that's a valuable part of the college experience. But just finding a good balance in terms of like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm really going to do this, because at 22, at 23, you have a real shot nowadays to make huge impacts in this industry, because there's a lot of opportunities where the people who are 45 and plus, or 40 and plus, who are doing the hiring, need people like you on their team to be good at social, to be good at digital, to be good at analytics and data. And I would honestly say, one of the big things too, is if you're building any company or building anything of your own, is make sure you, from the day one, that you get data figured out and you're tracking it from day one. I think that's been our biggest thing along the way, is we never really set in those parameters, and we never made sure we were tracking the data since the beginning. And it's hindered us a lot in terms of potential partnerships and stuff like that, because while we do know what some of our audience looks like, we still have a struggle really segmenting them and knowing, hey, is that actually a CEO on there, or is that an administrative assistant, or is that a ticket salesperson? And because of that, as a media company, it makes it harder to sell ads. And so that's a tough thing, but definitely one that you should always prepare for, is making sure that you have that data down. And then the also thing is it's never too early to create a personal brand around yourself. Whether it's you want to write a blog, whether it's you want to be active on social, whether it's you want to start creating YouTube videos or doing podcasts. There's just so much opportunity out there, and there's no really reason why throughout the 4 years while you're in school that you shouldn't already create such a vast network for yourself, that by the time you get to the graduation date, there should be people already thinking of you for jobs. I think there's just too many excuses floating around in terms of like, oh, sports business is so hard to break into. It's so hard to break into. I mean, when it really comes down to it, it's not. It's just if you're willing to intern a couple places and really prove your value in those internships, and then go from there. For the most part, people love to hire people who've interned with them. So if you intern well and you intern effectively, there's your job right there. And then you follow up with people, genuine relationships. I'm not saying that this is something I didn't know at the beginning, and I'm thankful for having parents who taught me from the beginning to make the genuine relationships. But there never should be a point when any of a relationship that you have is just a transactional relationship where you're reaching out with a handout looking for something. My biggest thing is I've come across a lot of people who could do probably some cool stuff for me, but I never ask. I don't want to be in a position where I have to ask for something. I would rather them think about me and say like, wow, this provided so much value that I'm going to hook him up with something, or I'm going to send them something my way. And not even that's my motivation. It's just like, if you become the person that provides value versus becoming the person that is always needing something, it really makes an impact and difference in versus how people see you and what they're willing to do for you. The people who create a lot of value, there's going to be a lot of people out there who want to do stuff for them without them even asking, versus the people who create a lot of needs and just want something for themselves are going to create something that people really, I wouldn't say not want to interact with, but they'll help you out once. But if you continue to go back to that basket and hope that fruit's always there, it's not going to be there. So, long story short, I would say really just make sure you know who you are and what you want to do, and then focus on that and make it a priority. If you really want to work in the industry, 4 years in college is plenty of time to get enough experience and enough contacts to make sure you have a job when you graduate. So it all comes down to just if that's what you really want to do it. If it's not, we'll find something else that you really want to do, and make the most of those 4 years, and then go from there.
How much of this product and this brand is because of your passion for not just the industry, but was it the creative side? Was it the writing? Like, is it because you have to be able to last the way you have and built this from nothing? It has to be such a passion project for you because you gotta like doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, you gotta like doing it, right? I mean, basically after a while you feel like you're crazy because 4 years later you feel like you're doing the same thing and you're not making any money, and you're like, is this really worth it? Is this really worth it? And next thing you know, you make $50,000 in a month and you're like, wow, this has been worth it. Right. Or this could be worth it. So yeah, I would say the passion isn't in one industry, so to speak. I would say the passion is more about like seeing the fact that there is just such a collaborative opportunity and a community that needs a resource that really looks out for them and is one of them and helps them and partakes in the struggles that they have and likes to engage with them and everything like that. I really have seen over my time in working in the various internships that I've been in and just talking to other people in the industry, there's a lot of, I wouldn't say like poaching / vulturism in the industry, but something that there's just a lot of people who make it just all about themselves and are looking for the next leg up and the leg up and the leg up and the leg up. And it becomes very cutthroat and non-collaborative, and people are keeping themselves to themselves and aren't opening up. And there's so many bright and intelligent people in the community. And that's where we've really kind of seen ourselves grow, is that we've had a brand that we believe, is with that peer-to-peer feel, talks with the community, not to the community. And I think that's a huge advantage for us, is that, all the people who write have some type of interest. All the people who are writing have been either working in, have interned in, have spent time in organizations, so they know what it's like. I think that's the one thing with us, and that's the passion that gets me up every morning, is just knowing that we can go out and we can lower the barrier of entry in this industry to someone who is 19 years old, who can come on and read our content for free and interact with industry leaders for free and really get a whole bunch out of it for nothing other than just the fact that they're giving us their time of day. And that's the biggest thing for us. And for me, is just using the platform for everyone else is good. Like, if it never materializes for me, that's fine. But, if people who write for the platform then go ahead and get jobs or opportunities, which we've seen happen where, we have this one girl who wrote for the platform for a couple times. One of my connections from way back saw her writing, liked what she was doing, and now that girl's working on her with her in her PR firm. Those opportunities has been what the platform has all about from the beginning. And I think that's what gives it that uniqueness and that feel, is that, we're not out to chase the dollar. Of course, obviously we'd like to make money, but the thing is if you're building such a valuable entity where a bunch of people like to be on and feel valued and feel like they're making a difference, then the money will come. And we've seen that. And so, I think that's the big thing, is just, I wake up every day knowing that we can and we do make an impact on the industry, whether it's covering people and giving them some publicity, or whether it's, helping a PR firm get some client coverage. It's weird as a media entity. a lot of people see them as, fake news and everything nowadays, but there's a lot of cool aspects that you get to do, and you get to bring to life, and you get to support other people in their jobs and their missions, and knowing that we can do that even at like a small scale is just fulfilling to me. Like that's waking up every morning knowing like, hey, something we post today can impact the person who wrote it, can impact the person who is in it, and can impact the people who are reading it. Is like a really, really cool thing, and something that I love, and I've been entirely fascinated by and really enjoy.
I think anybody who's listening to this, Adam, who's a sports management major right now, and kind of going through the process and listening to your story and your advice, and then there's old guys like me, old guys and women who are like me, who've been in this business for a long time, and listen to what you're saying, and you just get it. Everything you're saying is spot on. You're like an old soul, who's giving advice, and you're really just starting what's going to be an amazing career for you. And anybody I've raised 4 children, and, and hired a lot of kids right out of college that weren't even close to being where you are right now. And just your perspective on how this whole thing works. And giving is so much better than taking. Yep. When you start thinking about how much money you're ever going to make, it's over. When you start thinking about how many hours you're putting into it, it's over. There's going to be a day where you don't have to walk into that bar other than order a drink and not work there, and it's coming, and it's going to happen quickly for you. And everything that you just experienced in the last 4 years is that foundation that's going to propel your career beyond where you probably dream about now, but probably when you get there in 15, 20 years, you'll be like, I didn't see that one coming. Yeah. And it's only because you get it. The universe will take care of you, and the business will take care of you, because, you're doing things the right way. And so I know I heard one of your professors on the Tao of Sports, I think it was, and Troy asked her about, could you name one student that really stuck out in your mind? And she didn't even hesitate by saying and that's something for a professor to say about a kid from the University of Miami, So, but anyway, so listen, how can people find you other than the website? How can they reach out and connect with you?
Yeah, really. I mean, you can talk to me anywhere on Twitter. I'm pretty active. Obviously, that's where our big social following is. So FOS Adam, at FOS Adam. Feel free to follow and DM there. You can also find me, Adam, at frontofficesports.org. I'm not always on my email, but from the time about 6 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, I try to get off, but I can respond there, and then on LinkedIn too. I'm pretty effective, and that's the other thing too, is that you mentioned that I'm an old soul and things like that. It's been an interesting path as I kind of reflect back to that. Is that I've been able to learn a lot about myself, but the thing is I've interviewed close to 200 people and have been able to learn everything that they've taught me. And that's the other cool part, is that, I'm 23, but I've also been able to take away, an experience that, most people pay $60,000 to go to a school to get. And I was able to get for free. And it cost me some money, but it's just that experience that was able to kind of round me into who I am. And then, I also credit it to my parents, and they were the ones who really got me around and took me a bunch of places. They would always take me to dinners. They would always take me to places where I was around the older people and older adults, and had to be, much, much older than I was at 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. Mm-hmm. And, I see nowadays, and going back to serving, and I still serve on the weekends, today or yesterday, I was in the restaurant serving, and this family comes in, and mom, dad, and a daughter and a son. And the daughter and the son, as soon as they sit down, iPads in their face, headphones on, they don't say a single word the whole entire time they eat. Mm-hmm. And not saying that's an indictment on the family or anything like that, but, it's just something that I don't know if it's going to hurt them when they grow up, but it's just like, I couldn't have imagined that as a kid, and I don't think I would have been where I am. And so, it's a big hurrah to my parents for what they've done as well. But yeah, I mean, again, frontofficesports.org, at FOS Adam, at info@frontofficesports.org. If you don't remember Adam at frontofficesports.org, I respond pretty much anywhere, and happy to help, or always looking to collaborate with people if you have ideas, or you want us to cover an event. We're always looking for unique stories and bylines, and we're pretty open. We're very, very collaborative.
Well, I just appreciate your time and jumping on here, because I think you have, just like what you did, you shared all your stories with other people about other executives. I thought it was time for someone to share your story, and I know that's going to happen more and more and more. And I just think you just don't know who hasn't heard of you before. I've shared all the GAs in our athletic department. I've shared your emails every single day with them.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just pass it on. I said, this is a guy, and this is Front Office Sports is going to help you at some point in your career to get a job or to learn a little bit more about the industry. So what you have done and what you've created out of just from effort is amazing, Adam. So, I've said this to you before, not being recorded. I think you're a rising star. So good luck with everything. Thank you for your time. And I'm not going to judge those parents with their kids with their headphones, because you just never know about people. You never know about people sometimes. It's hard to judge those people.
Yep.
But my kids will tell you, they used to make fun of us because we never got a VCR or a DVD player in our minivan with the 4 kids. And they'll tell you to this day, some of the best memories were singing and joking and making fun of each other, and mostly making fun of me driving all those years. So it does matter. But listen, you're a class act. Best of luck to you, and wish you all the best.
Awesome. I appreciate it. And thanks again for having me. And I look forward to many more.
Seems good.
Awesome.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, of course.
This is Rob Thompson with Sports Business Podcast, interview with influencers. That was Adam White, founder of frontofficesports.org.